Recording in progress.
Good evening, I'd like to call the May 20th Town Board meeting to order. Everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. So just one couple quick announcements. One main quick announcement. We will not be having a meeting next week. The grievance board will be using this room next week for their hearing. And we will not have a meeting the next 2 weeks after that. So the next meeting that we have will be June 17th. If anything important comes up that we need, that's time sensitive, we may possibly call a special meeting, in which case we will let the public know. Brad also had something to say.
Yes, the elementary school, Benjamin Coaster Elementary School, is having their concert tonight and their little band, and I want to wish them a lot of luck because they're great kids. Congratulations.
Thank you. Paul, do we have any correspondence tonight? If that's the case, I'll move on to public comment. Does anybody from the public like to speak tonight?
No comment.
I'm sorry.
You got the list.
James Licari.
Gentlemen, ladies, what came to my attention tonight when I first looked at the agenda was item number 7. When I first glanced at it, I thought this would be something that should go before the planning board as opposed to coming before your group. And then I read it again and popped out at me that what we're really talking about here is another zoning change. And my really concern is this is the second time that your board this year has been approached to have major changes to the zoning, existing zoning ordinances. And I'm just hoping that we're not starting a trend here that's going to bite us in the butt, because once we start down this road, anybody that wants to come in here and change another zoning, you're almost going to have to listen to them and accept whatever it is that they want to do, or at least go through the process, because obviously you can't accommodate one with the chance of possibly discriminating against another one. In this particular case, you're going to hire 2 engineering firms and attorneys. Attorneys, I think, is plural, at least language that I've studied, and an initial amount of $3,000 to be replenished as consumed. And they're going to do all of these studies for you, so it's easier for you to go to the next level and make whatever decisions you may want to make. I guess my question is in today's real world, what do you expect to get, at least initially, for $3,000 from two engineering firms and a couple of attorneys? I mean, they're going to spend $3,000 just answering your request to hire them, because they get paid for that too. Anyway, that's my concerns, and maybe I'm looking at something here that's not going to happen, and that's what I really hope. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Pam Wagner. Gary, did you want to say something? Paul, did you hear it? Gary?
Really quick.
No, we go in order. It's Pam Wagner. Paul.
Dear Supervisor Mike Simone and town board members, I appreciate the board's efforts to address important issues affecting our town. I noticed on the agenda that the town is planning to hire a special legal counsel and a special code enforcement officer related to ongoing property code enforcement matters. Given that these hires will involve taxpayer funds, could the board please clarify what specific challenges have led to the need for outside counsel and enforcement personnel? Why have existing code enforcement staff and town lawyers been unable to resolve this issue internally? And what are the anticipated costs and expected timeline for these special hires? How will the board ensure that these resources are used efficiently and effectively to resolve the matter? Transparency on these points will help the community better understand the situation and support the board's efforts while also ensuring responsible use of public funds. Thank you for your attention and leadership. Sincerely, Lee. In reference to agenda number 4, it states motion to approve employment of Joe Smith Senior, I'll get my glasses, as a special code enforcement officer consultant with pay of $30, effective 5/5. Now, it is May 20th, and you're looking to motion to approve this employment unless we have magical powers and can go back in time about 2 weeks. I don't understand the point of approving this employment when you've already done it. And the other thing is, what are you paying Marvin Newberg per hour or for his agreement? Thank you.
Stan Wagner.
Good evening. I'm sure you're all familiar with this memo concerning the structural damage identified in 16 homes of Zimmerman Estates. It was found in the Zimmerman File and Building Department. What may come as a surprise is that at the last planning board meeting, we were told by members of the staff in the building department that no such memo exists. In fact, some went as far as to question its authenticity. Frankly, it's hard to believe that a resident or anyone outside this process would fabricate such a document, let alone include such specific and technical details without prior knowledge. Please consider how implausible that sounds. Adding to the confusion, the developer, apparently in response to this so-called memo, hired an engineer. The engineer's report dated May 6, 2025, 14 months after the original department memo, refers directly to the structural issues cited in the original memo and outlines necessary repairs. It is not an approval, it simply documents the damage and needed work. This is no final engineering report showing the repairs is done. So I ask you, if this memo were truly fake, how is it that an independent engineer produced a report that aligns with it so precisely? Does anyone genuinely believe a fraudulent memo would result in professional engineering assessment? The situation naturally raises a larger concern. If something as significant as this memo can be overlooked, misrepresented, or even denied entirely, what else might come to light with further inquiry? The memo predates the code enforcement officer, the current code enforcement officer, and I'm sure that the new code enforcement officer has to be overwhelmed and overworked with all the inspections, permits that he has to oversee. I'm sure that he has very little time to revisit the past. As a citizen, I am not questioning his dedication or competence. Rather, I am trying to ensure that all new construction is safe now and will be in the future. This isn't just about one development. It speaks to a broader issue of transparency, accountability, responsiveness within the town's leadership. Many year-round residents are watching closely. To assume they're unaware of what's happening is a serious misjudgment. Thank you.
Gary Burrell.
Good evening. Just wanted to bring the board up to date in terms of the Hudson Valley Women, the basketball team. We had a really nice tryout on Sunday. Some really good local ball players came out. Some family members came out, and I just wanted to appear tonight on behalf of the team, my wife Naomi and myself, and personally thank Sean for spearheading this effort to get this project off the ground, as well as all the other board members. I think this is going to be really fantastic. So again, thank you guys. I appreciate everything you guys are doing for us. Thank you.
Is anybody online?
No. Does anyone else from the public want to speak tonight? No. Anybody online? Nope. All right, then I'll go ahead and close the public portion, and we'll move on to our department head updates. First up, police department. I believe Paul has correspondence from police.
So I have notes that were written from Chief Pavesi. dated today. Good evening. I apologize for my absence, but as most of you know, my youngest son is home on leave from the United States Marine Corps, and I am taking every moment possible to spend it with him until he ships out next Tuesday. The Fallsburg Police Department is in a great place. We are close to having a full staff, which helped cut overtime budget down drastically. All 5 of the new recruits are finished with their 160 hours of state mandated field training. They are on their own patrolling the town. Hunter Flynn started the police academy on May 5th and is doing well. Officers Camacho and Vera recently completed bike school. This will enable me to have more officers patrolling the rail trails, and it will help during our upcoming summer season. Our officers are currently rotating through the firearms range for their annual qualifications. 5 of the 11 plate reader cameras are installed and up and running. These cameras are a great tool to assist the officers with doing their jobs. My officers have already answered 4,030 calls to service year to date. Our current arrest body count in at 135 compared to 99 at the same time last year. That is an increase of over 35% from last year. Vehicle and traffic enforcement are up drastically. On Monday, Sergeant Brooks put together a mock accident at the Fallsburg High School for the juniors and seniors. The junior-senior prom is this Thursday. It showed them the dangers and consequences of impaired driving. I would like to thank Sergeant Brooks for making this happen. It is the first time it has been done in 7 years. I would also like to thank all of the volunteers who made it a success. The Fallsburg Central School District, Fallsburg and Woodburn Fire Department, Life Net Helicopter, Mountaindale, Bethel, and Empress EMS, Russell's Garage for donating the 2 wrecked vehicles, Corner Bachman, and Colonial Memorial Funeral Home. We recently installed the Beast Evidence System, which was purchased off the grant that we received from the state last year. This will help us to manage our evidence room by scanning all items in and out of the evidence room. It also allows us to set time frames for purging purposes and get us one step closer to accreditation. The unmarked cars are in and currently having finishing touches done. They should be here in the next 2 weeks. These cars will help to get our fleet up to date and get rid of cars that are over 12 years old. I would like to again thank the town board for continuing to support the police department. We are focused on being the best that we can be and to keep the residents safe. Patrolling and community policing continue to be my main focus. Regards, Chief Brendan Pavesi.
Thank you. All right, next up, Highway. Anthony, I don't see Anthony here. Did he submit anything?
He did. So he also submitted this today. Anthony Dworsky, the highway superintendent. We have suit coat here, chip and sealing, 2.02 miles of road. Human Road, Canarelli, Becky's Hill, Bertholf, Edwards, Rose, Hasbrook, Old Route 52, Spur, Columbia, Maple Hill, Whitaker, La Vista, Curly, DeForest, Avery, Fox Run, Hat, and Paramount. We have been prepping roads, changing culverts, ditching, mowing, and tree trimming for paving as well as patching. The rented sweeper has been sweeping. We have it until June 3rd, and 3/4 of the town is done. Changed 30 foot of 48-inch culvert pipe on Taylor Road, replaced an old rotten metal pipe. Scheduled to start paving the end of June, and everything has been running smoothly.
Thank you. All right, next up, DPW under our town engineer, Ken Ellsworth. Did he submit anything?
He's online.
He's on. Oh, perfect.
Ken, can you unmute?
Yeah,
Okay,
you have me?
gotcha.
All right. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm on my cell phone. I'm at my grandson's Little League game, so I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys via the cell. On the sewer side, we are finishing cleaning and videoing about 12,000 lineal feet of sewer line in the Laurel Ave area. That's part of the grant process that the town was awarded. We found a number of breaks. We're working on one on Oak Drive now. We found one of the problems with some sewage backup was that the pipe, a 12-inch pipe, was half full of sediment. That's now been cleaned out, and we hope to have the rest of it clean. We have another maybe 300-400 feet to go, which should be done this week. We are working on a pump station, the new old pump station. We have some older pumps that have to be replaced, and we're in the process of that. The town, with Grandy's forces, are trying to keep up with the mowing that's been difficult this year because it's wet. They're doing maintenance, and they've been doing a number of sewer taps for newer projects. On the water side, we're finishing the altitude valve pit on Brooklyn Road tank. They've done two taps in the last couple of weeks in Mountaindale for new houses, and they are doing putting in meters and doing openings, setting up meters in place. They've also found 3 service line repairs that they've been working on. On the water side, I think I might have mentioned this last time, but I'll say it again. We have on Loch Sheldrake #1 well, we have lowered the well pump, which allows us to produce another 50 gallons per minute. We did an exploratory well 200 feet from Loch Sheldrake #1 and found that we estimate another 100 gallons per minute could be developed from that well field. We have a plan in place to monitor Loch Sheldrake #2 with the Formaggio well to try to develop that well or be able to pump that well at its capacity. And we are planned to monitor Loch Sheldrake #3 with Park Slope. We're also in the process of developing the wells on Hyden Road to get a final flow count from that as well. So we're progressing fairly rapidly with the information we're trying to develop for the water. We're working on the DRBC docket and the requirements, conditions that they've put on that, and we're almost complete with that. We should have no problems meeting the deadlines that they want us to follow. Open it up to any questions.
Any questions from the board? No questions. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
All right, and last up, we have a update regarding our Sullivan O&W Neversink Crossing project by Howard Buttrock.
So, I'm here tonight, or at least this portion of the meeting, with my town resident and my volunteer, Pat Allen, as chair of the Sullivan O&W Rail Trail Alliance. So I appreciate the opportunity to just give you guys some information. There's a couple of budget items on the agenda tonight that have some fairly large dollar amounts associated with them in connection with the O&W Rail Trail. Yeah, one for Richard. There you go. So I know that everyone on the board is obviously familiar with the project in kind of a general sense. There's been a bunch of resolutions over the past couple of months, kind of in dribs and drabs, and I feel like a little bit like it's a puzzle. And you guys have been, approving little pieces of the puzzle, but maybe have an idea of what the picture is supposed to be, but not of all the intimate pieces. So I just wanted to have an opportunity to give you a little bit of background, talk a little bit about what the project is, where we are in the process, and what's next. So the first item that you have before you is a little bit of a timeline. I think as everybody knows, the rail trail here in Fallsburg has been, it's been 40 years, I think, plus, since the development of the trail first started with the first section in Mountaindale back in 1990. So my involvement with the rail trail started around 2005 At that point, I wrote a grant for the town to do a planning study. It was called the Fallsburg O&W Rail Trail Corridor Plan, that basically looked at just the O&W in the town of Fallsburg. So we have these different segments. We have Mountaindale, we have Woodridge, we have South Fallsburg, we have Hurleyville, and they're independent segments that are not necessarily connected, or at least at that time, they were definitely not sort of connected. So the Neversink Crossing project, which is what we refer to as the pedestrian bridge over the Neversink, really had its origins back in 2008. It's been almost 20 years that this has been on the drawing board. In that rail trail corridor plan, it looked at filling those gaps in between, and part of that study was a very brief engineering assessment by Barton and Judas that looked at what would it take to restore that bridge over the Neversink. There used to be a railroad trestle that used to carry the railroad across the Neversink River. That's been long gone, and we started looking at various options for making that connection, back like 20 years ago. The rail trail project as a whole really started to gain steam around 2015. That's when the county started to take an interest. They had a trail committee. They saw the O&W as low-hanging fruit to say, okay, if we could build a trail network from one end of the county to the other, with Fallsburg sort of right smack in the middle, that would be a wonderful economic development and tourism attraction. So the O&W kind of has its origins in Mamakating, then it goes through Fallsburg, it goes through Liberty, it goes through the town of Rockland, and then from Livingston Manor, Roscoe, it kind of like peters out and becomes Route 17. So the O&W corridor as a whole is really from Wurtsboro, Summitville, all the way out to Livingston Manor. What I gave you is an updated trail map. It's hot off the presses, thanks to Porter printed. So you'll see the entire, corridor, so you have an idea of how this fits in to the larger picture. So the county worked on basically a county-wide feasibility study starting in the mid-2010s. That study was completed in 2019. That was the origins of the Sullivan O&W Rail Trail Alliance, which was a group of volunteers that were working to build out this rail trail countywide. From 2020 until, about a year ago or so, there was an effort on the part of the county and others to start securing funding for the Neversink Crossing project. So what really kicked things off was a $1.1 million congressional allocation by then Congressman Antonio Delgado, who's now the Lieutenant Governor. He kind of awarded that first little bit of seed money. And as anybody who's involved in grant writing knows, once you get somebody to pony up some money, all of a sudden everybody wants to hitch their wagon to sort of a winning train. I don't know what the expression is, but we'll go with that. So we started off with that federal money. Then we were able to get 2 grants from the State Parks Department, totaling like $750,000. Couple of memorandums, here and there. The county actually ponied up, or is going to pony up, $550,000 in matching, basically cash match. So at the end of the day, we basically have a $3.3 million project that, as of right now, there's no local match on the part of the town of Fallsburg. Everything is coming from grants and or county funding, which is virtually unheard of in sort of the grant world. So I wanted to give you an idea of the big picture and how this fits into the resolutions that you have before you tonight. So there's a little spreadsheet that says funding breakdown and grant balance. I wanted to be 100% transparent because there's been a lot of work behind the scenes these past couple of weeks to get that number down as low as possible. So you have 3 resolutions before you tonight. I think 2 resolutions and 1 motion. One is to award the construction contract for the Neversink Crossing project to Sullivan County Paving and Construction. They were the low bidder. The project went out to bid, I think it was in February. The bids were opened in March. They were the low bidder. Thank goodness they came in under the engineer's estimate. Their low bid was roughly $2.85 million. The other resolution that you have in front of you is for the soft costs associated with the project. That's construction management and inspection, and some support services from Alta, which is the engineering company that the county hired to do all the design work. And that is $442,000, plus Alta is $35,000. So you'll see from the balance sheet, we have $3.312 million in grants and $3.326 in projected expenses. So there's a little bit of a gap, it's only about $13,000, but the important thing to remember is built into that 2.9 construction contract, the low bid, is $130,000 worth of contingency. So we've got a little bit of flexibility, and I came into this project basically, with a commitment to try and get it done without any local funds, from the town. I'm still committed to that. But if we get to a situation where we go a little bit over budget, I will make sure that I'm communicating with you every step along the way and that the board understands, but I don't expect it that, as of a couple of weeks ago, it was a $120,000 gap, and that was unacceptable. So we did some negotiating with the engineers, got that number down, and I feel confident that we can deliver the project. Who are you making faces at?
People.
The people? You're distracting me. I feel like a teacher with the class clown making faces over there.
It's good that you called them out.
I know, right? Sorry.
My man Ocean, I was saying hello to my buddy Ocean. How you
Okay,
doing?
there you go. So, I wanted to make sure that you understood the big picture. The other thing I wanted to just explain to you is that in order to bring the project in at $2.8 million, because we lost some time, we lost about 2 years in the environmental permitting process, and during that time, construction costs went up, but the amount of funding that we had available stayed the same. So in order to cut costs, the engineer recommended taking certain prep work out of the scope of the larger project, and the town basically committed to doing that prep work. That was about 2 years ago. I don't think the town really understood what they were kind of committing to, because it was a lot of work, or it is a lot of work. And that prep work involved tree removal, grubbing of stumps, demolishing a ginormous concrete abutment, and some interim grading before the contractor takes over. I'm happy to report I was just out at the site today, and the abutment is in rubble. It is down. The grubbing has been completed. And the other thing that you have on your agenda tonight is putting the last piece of the prep work out to bid, which is the interim grading work. So that, again, is spelled out on the spreadsheet, but that's the last piece of the town's commitment on the prep work. What's been funding that is an old grant from 2020, which was part of the Sullivan Renaissance program, the Golden Feather. This is probably all familiar to Steve. But there's about $100,000 left in that grant. A portion of that went to the tunnel bypass trail, but we have enough, hopefully, left over that if that last piece comes in, we should be able to use that grant to pay for that work. So as you can see, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. It's not a small project. From a funding perspective, it's incredibly complicated. I've been donating my time as sort of a grants, manager, keeping track of all the grants, and I will continue to do that through the payment and reimbursement process. Jen is like, you better. So in any event, I didn't mean to take up so much of your time, but I wanted to make sure you understood the big picture, what was before you tonight. And if all goes well, we'll be able to finish that interim grading in the next month or so. The contractor will take over in July. They'll order the pedestrian bridge, and the whole project will be done by this time next year, by May of 2026. So, sorry if there's any questions before you guys move on to your regular agenda and the resolutions. I'm happy to answer them. Okay, all right, well, thank you.
Yeah, this has been a huge project, years in the making.
Yes.
We're
Not-
almost seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but
Oh, I'm definitely seeing the light, I don't know. But anyway, I do want to thank all of the town staff, from Jen to Anthony to Richard and Paula. I mean, there's literally like dozens of emails every day that come through on this project, and they've just been wonderful. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but So thank you for putting up with all this, but I promise it'll be amazing when it's all done. This is gonna be the town of Fallsburg's walkway over the Hudson. I am confident that it's actually gonna be a spectacular attraction for people to come to the town, as well as something for town residents to enjoy. So,
Thank you.
thank you for your patience.
All right. So that's the end of our department head updates. We're gonna move on to our agenda items for tonight. So number 1, motion to approve warrant number 0525 dated 5/8/25 in the amount of $231,852.59.
Motion.
Second. Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 2, motion to approve town board minutes dated 5/6/2025.
Motion.
I have a motion,
Second.
and I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 3, motion to approve employment of Ryan Smith as laborer 1 in the Parks Department with an hourly rate of $18.54 effective 5/2/25.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Excuse me. Miranda's not,
Miranda didn't say anything.
I know.
So is that,
But have you been saying anything? I haven't been
We don't know if it's 5-0
So
I
or,
didn't
is
say
it-
anything.
at all, the whole meeting?
no, she hasn't voted at all.
so for the last 3 motions, the options are aye, no, abstain, and recuse.
So is she recusing any of these?
I don't know.
Because I've not heard her, that's why.
I
No, she
took her silence as a yes, so if it's not,
No, it's not.
so number 1, to approve the warrant. Is
It's a
that,
yes.
yes, okay, number 2 and number 3 as well?
Yes. Oh, not number 3, no. I excuse myself. Excuse me.
You recuse yourself
Yeah,
from
yeah,
number
I
3,
recuse myself.
to approve the employment of Ryan Smith as laborer 1 in the Parks Department with an hourly rate of $18.52. To recuse it?
Who made that motion?
It's Japanese.
All right, number 4, motion to approve the appointment of Joe Smith Senior as Special Code Enforcement Officer Consultant with a pay of $30 an hour effective 5/5/25. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Discussion? What are we paying in the scope of this? Because I had sent an email asking questions and there's not been a response. So, hell no. Like, I don't understand.
So you voting no, is that what you're saying?
No, I want a discussion as to why are we doing this? Like, I asked for that and it didn't happen.
Did you not speak to anyone?
I asked you. I sent an email and said, hey, we need information.
And we had a long discussion about this, not more.
No. I wanted written information, not a discussion, because the communication on this board is horrific at best. I was clear, and I wanted written, I wanted printed, because I want to see it for myself. I don't want to hear it from nobody. No, not with this board, absolutely not. Y'all put it on paper.
Okay, duly noted. So we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstaining. You don't have enough information. This is wrong.
One abstention. What about you? Are you abstaining? Yes, no?
Abstaining.
Okay, so 2 abstentions, 3 yeses. Thank you.
I didn't hear Jeff say yes.
No, he made a motion.
Yeah.
And then, second, I'm with him.
Right, so the yes goes to me. I can discuss it just quickly, but.
No,
to vote-
it was supposed to be on paper. I specifically asked for it on paper, you threw it on the agenda. I said, this doesn't make any sense, I need to see what we are talking about, what we're spending, how we're spending, what's the scope. I asked very specific questions that I wanted to see it. You did not provide that information. And so voting on 4 and 5, in my opinion, right, we're just blowing taxpayer money and we don't know how. And I'm asking specific questions. I understood the why, but I want to see it.
Okay. All right, you'll get the information. Just make your
After the
request.
vote, I did take the request.
All right.
I made the request via email last week.
Then I will send you the information.
After the vote. Like, you're not, like, I don't let, never mind.
All right, thank you. Number 5, motion to approve agreement with Marvin Newberg as special counsel. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Abstain.
Aye.
Abstain.
And I have 2 abstentions. Thank you.
What are you saying?
I'm a yes.
Okay, well, I just need to know this, I have to make my notes properly. I'm not being any sort of way tonight, but I have to know.
Number 6, motion to approve Supervisor Ben Simone to sign the 2025 Municipal Partnership Grant Addendum with Sullivan 180 in the amount of $17,000.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 7, I'm going to read this out and I'll let Richard explain in detail. Motion to create a pre-project escrow for retention of professionals, Keystone Engineering, Delaware Engineering, and attorneys in the amount of $3,000 to be replenished as consumed, to explore zoning change requests for existing project known as Landau's Grocery Store, parcel owned by RR Plaza LLC, SBL number 52.5-2.1, which is a B zoning district, to be combined with parcels owned by 5219 Main LLC, SBL 52.5.2.2, which is a mixed zoning district, and 5215 Main Street LLC 52.5.5-6, which is also a mixed zoning district, with all parcels to be designated as MX zoning, which is mixed zoning district, subject to all use and bulk requirements and all expenses of zoning change petitions to be borne by the owners of the parcels. Such escrow and obligations of owner are due regardless of any potential action on the petition for a zoning change which is subject to determination that such zoning change is consistent with and pursuant to the comprehensive plan for general welfare of the community and all procedural requirements. The pre-project escrow is separate and apart from any escrow to be paid for any planning board applications and will be separately maintained and billed. This is a secret type 2 action. Richard, do you want to summarize this?
Sure. The board has been petitioned to make the zoning change as specified in the motion, and to avoid the burden of the examination of the zoning change request, to be sure it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, that it's for the general welfare of the community and all the procedural requirements, the applicant's been required to place an escrow subject to replenishment as needed in order to pay the professionals that are necessary to examine their application and to review any and all data and information that the applicant may submit. And the reason it's done by motion by this board is that there is no project per se before the planning board, so that this motion is required in order to establish the escrow to defray the cost of the town. It's a secret type 2 action, meaning the is part of ongoing administration and no actual building or action on any changes before the board. So it is a type 2 action. So this is an administration type item. So that basically clarifies, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that the board may have as to why we're doing it that way.
So essentially, the applicant or the property owners are seeking to do a zoning change, but it's gonna require a lot of administrative work, engineering work, things of that sort. But rather than the town be saddled with the expenses, we're gonna let the applicant pay or reimburse us for all of those expenses, but there won't be any expectation on the town board to approve. This isn't like creating a primrose path where.
No, these zoning changes are not a matter of right, so it's whether the board elects to entertain it or not. It's not a matter of right situation, so that the expense of it's properly borne by whoever's asking, who will ultimately have to demonstrate to the board that this is in the best interest of the town.
Okay, all right, as long as there's no responsibility on us. Okay.
No, and also, there's no credit for this in later proceedings. This is specifically having to do with the zoning change petition.
Okay then, so do I have a motion for agenda item number 7?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Abstain.
I have 1 abstention,
Abstain.
2 abstentions, and I am in favor, so the motion passes. All right, number 8, so this is what Helen referred to before, so this is essentially to put it out to bid, to solicit bids for the grading work that's gonna be done in preparation for where the bridge is gonna go. So number 8, motion to approve town clerk to solicit bids for Never Sink Trail Gap interim grading, Sullivan County, New York, with a bid due date of 6/10/25 at 10 a.m.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 9. So this is a shared services agreement between New York State DOT and the town of Fallsburg to essentially, be able to borrow each other's equipment, use material up to a maximum of $25,000 a year. So number 9, motion to authorize town highway superintendent to sign shared services agreement between New York State DOT and the town of Fallsburg.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Number 10, so this one has to do with our wastewater treatment plant upgrade. So this has to do with the electrical components upgrade. I believe, is this the one we're correcting?
No, this one, we're just bringing it on, essentially it's ratification. We passed this in 2024 in Resolution 19 regarding the electrical system upgrade. And at that time, there was an authorization to put it out to bid, but because it was so long ago, we put it before the board to basically ratify it and so everyone sees what's going on, because there was.
What does it mean?
Okay, because there was.
Because it was, a year and a half ago that it was approved, just to revisit it and make sure that we're, having the board ratify and authorize the clerk to
Got it.
to advertise.
And I can put my Delaware hat back on if you have any questions for the wastewater treatment plant stuff.
Okay, so number 10, motion to approve town clerk to solicit bids for wastewater treatment plant utility upgrade project with a bid due date of 6/26/25 at 1 p.m. As per resolution 19 of 2024, authorizing bidding for electrical system components associated with the South Fallsburg wastewater treatment plant upgrade.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. This is another one that Helen brought up before, so I guess I'll just read it then. Resolution 47 of 2025, awarding bid for construction of the Never Sink Trail Gap project, PIN RT 21.11 to a parent low bidder, Sullivan County Paving Construction Incorporated, for an amount not to exceed $2,849,531.50, pending New York State DOT concurrence and authorizing town supervisor to sign any related documents or agreements.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Another one that Helen brought up, this one is Resolution 48 of 2025, authorizing the town of Fallsburg to retain Greenman Peterin, Alta Planning and Design Incorporated, and H&T Engineering Services, PLLC, as consultants to provide professional construction support services in connection with Never Sink Trail Gap project for the amount not to exceed $477,000. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 13, resolution number 49 of 2025, authorizing the project contribution agreement with NYSEG for electrical service upgrades for the Fallsburg Consolidated Sewer District.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 14, resolution number 50 of 2025, approving the town of Fallsburg standard workday and reporting 2025 for elected appointed officials. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. So this one I believe was a redo, right?
Yes.
By all the members?
My understanding is that it's the same company, but there may have been an acquisition or a name change in between, so that the name Xeon Environmental Corporation is also known as Viola. Viola Services was the original name, so it's just to correct the corporate name and ratify the same terms. There's no change in terms, it's just a matter of making sure that we have the correct contracting parties, because when the contract was ultimately generated, the name issue was discovered. So there's really no substantive change, it's really a form of ownership change, and the membrane being supplied is still a sole source provider and complies with procurement.
Right, yeah, I remember this. This was to replace the membranes at the Loch Sheldrake wastewater treatment plant, which is due to go bad in the next couple of years, but we're looking to do an 8-year financing for the new membranes, which they will house for us in storage until such time we're ready for them. The reason we're doing it now rather than later is because there was a plan to increase prices dramatically, and we want to take advantage of the current pricing. It's number 15, amendment of Resolution 21 of 2025, approving Veolia membrane replacement agreement dated February 14, 2025 for Loch Sheldrake wastewater treatment plant located at 1077 New York 52 through Xenon Environmental Corporation, aka Veolia.
Motion.
I have a motion,
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right, so that's it for our agenda items for tonight. We do have one discussion item tonight. Discussion on moving Landau's Park, also known as Brian Ingber Park, to expand
Hold on.
municipal parking lot.
Is that a no?
Well, I just want to make it very clear, it is never once been called Landau's Park, that is clearly Brian Ingrid Park. My client doesn't want to refer to it. It's to honor a person and a family in the town. I apologize, but it made me shudder.
Yeah, and I don't know how Google picked up that it's called.
I have no idea either, but it is not, I want the public to understand that it's not my client.
Fine, so I'm gonna reread this, all right? I'm gonna reread it properly. Discussion on moving Brian Ingber Park to expand municipal parking lot, presented by Steve Lappy.
So, my client, I do represent Landau Supermarket, and the supermarket, in addition to owning the main building that now houses the renovated supermarket, has purchased several other buildings and is contemplating an upgrade to buildings that kind of front on 42 and Railroad. In the course of that, it became, something that's been rolling around here for years is what we consider to be a dangerous building spot in the middle of a very busy parking lot all summer. It's come up a few times. My client is interested in working with the town and if we can provide some assistance in the course of our project upgrade, or outside of that would increase parking. We'd like to open that discussion with the town. More parking and moving of that parking, from my client's perspective, is the right thing for the town to do. One's a commercial business area, and one is, it's not really a place where kids should be running around with a park. The logistics of moving a park can be difficult, but I understand that the Parks Department's already begun looking at it. And at this point, we're just, we've come and gone a couple times on this, but we would like to open that discussion, and maybe if the board could appoint or designate someone in the town that we can kind of sit down and have kind of discussions with, understand the scope, the budget, and where we can help. We'd like to move that ball forward.
Okay. I think there's definitely a safety issue there. I've seen pictures of cars going through the fencing and tearing down the fence, so that's potentially.
There's actually no fence on a portion of it right now to that, but luckily that was off season.
Right. So I think this is something to be said there regarding the safety aspect of it.
I think there's a dedicated tree or some
Yeah,
dedicated
one of the
trees,
things
right?
I would like to point
So
out, there is a tree
we have
dedicated to
take-
Bart
yeah.
Razzing's father.
We
That
have,
should really be
Yeah.
something we all have to look at.
we have, so
Can it safely be uprooted?
maybe, but I probably would recommend having him as part of that conversation, like, just,
I will point out, I did speak, because I told Bart I was becoming tonight, we actually chatted about it briefly, because my client recognizes more, as much as anyone, if something's been dedicated in honoring the memory of a town resident, should be respected, right? I don't know the size of the tree, I'm not an arborist, but if it can be safely moved and it would live, you know, we're willing to help explore that. If not, we're willing to, you know, replace it
Yeah.
and honor him.
I think he was okay with it, but I don't wanna speak for him.
I-
With, if it had to be replaced, I don't wanna speak for him, but that's why I'm like, he should be part of that dialogue. And then I think there's if it's a park, you might have to get permission from the state to move a park, or to shut down a park, that would be your only thing.
I think if you get rid of a park, that might, I don't know the answer to that completely, it's more of a question probably to Rich, I haven't researched it. But I would think if you're replacing it in kind or better, I don't think there's much,
I hope.
shouldn't be much of an issue.
Yeah, but it makes sense to move it, like, yeah.
Anyway, that's why we're, you know, he asked me to come today. You know, as far as Mr. Radner goes, I reached out to him because I knew, you know, I wanted to know what was important to my client as well. And again, any assistance my client provides is to honor Brian Ingber's over in the park, not, you know, taking any credit on there, so.
Would your clients be amenable to paying for the costs of moving the playground?
Like I said, we really would like to open up a conversation and understand the scope of work, the, you know, projected cost, and where we can help. I can't, I'm not in a position tonight to commit to a number, but we're certainly willing to entertain assisting the town in the movement of that park, and whether it's, I don't know, what equipment can move, you know, there's gonna be work on the site of the former park, work on the site of the new park, you know, probably some equipment that has to be replaced. So we're happy to kind of assist in developing, you know, giving some resources to develop that plan and to execute it. We just want to understand the scope and where we can help, and determine where we can help.
Well, I'm definitely open to having that conversation and working through all the details and logistics of it. As long as it doesn't commit us to, it's not like a tacit approval ahead of time.
One has nothing to do with the other. I mean, just going back to, if you want to go back to the zone change proposal, one has nothing to do with the other. In fact, one wouldn't prevent the project from going forward. Aesthetically, it probably wouldn't be as nice and may require a parking easement, but truthfully, they're pretty minor easements and it could go forward either way. We sort of viewed it as, it's much better aesthetically and engineering wise to have it in the same district. And the MX and the B districts are pretty close, there's like setback changes, setback differences and small parking differences, but the bulk tables are pretty close. And, you know, knowing the issues with zoning and what you're dealing with on a kind of global basis, in making that request, the MX and B are not much different, the uses in the hamlet itself are not much different without looking for, you know, massive change that would affect areas within the town. These are just two lots that are adjacent to the MX, I'm sorry, adjacent to the MX district, but in the B district only because it's on the central corridor. And there are MX districts throughout all the hamlets, I think, in the town as well. It just, it'd be helpful to my client from an engineering and aesthetic standpoint, but other than that, it's one thing has nothing to do with the other.
Okay.
Parking is parking, and the more people that, you know, the safer and better we can make that parking lot, obviously it nurses the benefit of both of my client and many other businesses in the town, as well as many other residents in the town that have to get through town on Thursday and Fridays, and, you know, when it's busy.
Well, that and the municipal parking lot in the summertime can get
Yeah.
pretty hard to find parking there, so.
Did they identify the new location, or they're looking at the
I think the park, my understanding is, I have not talked to anyone in the Parks Department, my understanding is that the Parks Department had an idea where they wanted to put it, I don't know exactly where, but they're just giving kind of general idea.
Over by the basketball court.
Okay.
That's what I was sort of,
All right.
I don't know exactly where they're, but where they're.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because it's really not crossing the street.
With a lot of traffic.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, yeah, sounds like so we can move forward with that discussion. If that's the case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, to go into executive session, or anything else that comes up in front of them. Richard, do we have anything?
Can I just, should I be coordinating with Jen going forward as far as setting up a sitting down?
Or Harris, right?
Well, I could get, it's the highway and the parks department, so I.
All right, maybe we could set up a staff meeting on that, that'd be great, thank you.
Do we need to go to executive session for anything tonight? No? All right, so then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. I've got a couple of things I'm trying to figure out, and hopefully we can do this in public.
What's the motion?
I'd like to understand what the reimbursement policy is for town officials.
Sounds like a Scott question.
No, you see, because that took a month to get an answer, so I'm asking this board what that policy is. Because I'm trying to understand how the supervisor executes payments to staff members when they do things in town functions, because I don't get it and I don't understand it, so I'd like this board to figure it out.
Okay, so we should develop a policy and procedures for it, is that what you're saying? Is that the motion?
Were you making a motion or were you asking a
I
question?
was asking a question, really.
Okay, 'cause that's different.
Right, yeah, I'm not making a motion, I'm asking a question.
Yes.
Because there were members of this board that went and represented the town at the Association of Towns meeting in 2025. We were asked to submit, or we weren't asked, we submitted reimbursement forms after a month of trying to figure out what the policy is specific to reimbursements of payments. That didn't, once we got that, then it was submitted, then they were rejected, requesting more information. And then when we asked for more information, or we said, look, there's no information available because of how late and how long this process has taken, no response, no communication. And that's indicative of this board. And I'm quite frankly tired of it. So I'd like to know right here, right now, what is it? Because you know what? The person executing the policy didn't exactly follow it in 2024.
Okay, so what is the policy as it's currently written?
Because the policy sure isn't going into a staff member and asking them to change what they wrote down for going to the city in 2024. That ain't the policy, right?
You could always give it to the state controller for an opinion.
I'm pretty confident it's already done. So what is the policy?
When was it submitted?
What? It was submitted in February
To the
of
state
this year.
controller.
What? Doesn't matter when it was submitted to the controller, right? We know that,
If we're seeking an advisory from them, then we want to wait until they respond.
no. In 2025, you received reimbursement forms.
Directly?
You got it on email. You had it printed, right?
No, it was sitting on my desk after it was
Which
given
means-
to the town controller.
Jesus. Which means it was printed, right?
It said by email.
And I said it was printed on your desk. You had it. And when you were told, you asked for questions, you asked for clarity, you asked for maps.
It lacked supporting documentation.
Right.
Right,
Then that's
so
the
I asked for
documentation.
supporting documentation.
And it was provided,
It
right?
was not fully provided, it was provided in pieces, and the pieces that were provided were processed.
And at what point did you communicate it wasn't provided fully? Tell me. I'm waiting. When did you tell that?
To you,
Yeah.
by phone.
And when it was provided to you again and said, hey,
And I incorporated it, whatever you provided.
Amtrak doesn't have, they don't keep dates after 5 days, right?
So then you keep your receipts.
So it's all digital.
Okay, so provide me digital information,
I did.
not specifics.
Yes,
Show me
I did.
specifics. Show me the
Here's
specifics.
the email. Because we're gonna sit back and play that game. Dude, here's the email, right here. All right, here it is 4/22. When I sat there and said, hey, Walmart does, Amtrak does not. They delete it after a few days.
So why didn't you save it at the time?
Here's the screenshot. Why do I need to save it if I'm telling you I'm on Amtrak? Like, I'm literally telling you this.
So
Here's the
again,
train station.
if I can't have supporting documentation.
There it
it's
is.
stapled, But it doesn't give you dates.
What are you talking about? What is that? That's a date.
Does it-
That's a date. That's a date. Look at that, let me zoom it in for you, that's a date.
That's
Looks
one
like
date.
it- That's several dates.
Yeah, but no time.
You just said it
no
was one date.
information.
What time and information, dude? Like, here it is, I'm going to the city.
Submit it to
From
any
here.
auditor or specifically to the state controller for an opinion, and they will tell you what the supporting documentation necessary to process travel and reimbursement vouchers are.
So, I had no other reason to go on this train other than to represent this town.
But you're not providing
I'm providing,
reasonable
You're not-
supporting documentation.
because of the time delay of the staff getting back to us on what we needed to present.
Okay, so who's the staff that you asked about this information?
I asked the controller.
Okay, and what did the controller say?
After time, the controller said, this should be okay, this is $40 for, daily lunch, okay, great. And I submitted it as soon as I got in March, that's March. We went in February.
So you're saying what you submitted, the controller was happy with?
Yes, because, is there any issues, let me know.
So he didn't, again, first of all, he was wrong, but even if he was
But
right.
I'm not gonna say whether he was right or wrong, what I'm saying is, what is the process, right? Because I know where I was at in 2025 and 2024, I was where I was supposed to be representing the town.
Right.
And I shouldn't have to be spending my money to go represent the town. That's not the deal.
Okay, but when you spend $80 on a meal, then how is
But I
this-
didn't. Piss off, don't even try that crap out loud. Because I
The
spent more.
receipts show
I
that you
spent-
spent
and
more
what did I-
than what you submitted for.
No, I didn't. See, the receipts show I spent more and I submitted less. So,
Right,
no,
so where'd
no,
you
no,
get
no,
the
no, no,
$40
no,
from?
let me, because that's what he told us.
Right, so where is he getting that information?
I don't know. That's why I'm coming to you guys.
So as a board, we set policies and procedures. Why don't we define those policies and procedures? If we don't have them.
We have,
do we-
For a dollar amount.
no, I'll tell you what it is, I'll just read out loud, so I don't get in the middle of this.
Right.
In situations where the town does not make arrangements for lodging and accommodations, the town shall reimburse employees for necessary and actual expenses incurred while traveling on town business for meals, mileage, and lodging while away from the town. Please contact the controller's office for the current regional expense amount, so there's a table.
Okay.
It's the responsibility of each department head to approve the appropriateness of meals and lodging expenses incurred by employees while away conducting town business. The town shall submit a claim form given an itemized listing of expenses incurred, including proof/receipts of such purchases. Request for expense reimbursement must be submitted to the controller's office within 30 days after the expense is incurred. Note, detailed itemized receipts must accompany all requests for reimbursement. If receipts are not provided, the town will not reimburse the expense. Additionally, the town will not reimburse for certain expenses such as alcohol. Employees who are directed by the appropriate department head or supervisor to use the employee's own vehicle. An employee who is directed by the appropriate department head or supervisor to use employee's own vehicle to conduct the business will be reimbursed at a mileage rate of 0.655 per mile as established by the IRS.
I think it's .70 this year.
It went up, yeah. it was right.
I read the policy that I was able to find.
Right.
So. I
Right,
didn't
but the
know-
policy doesn't
So
define,
two pieces there. One is an approved table by state controller that, I don't know where we got the
It's not the state
from.
control.
that's not, it doesn't say
It's
state.
a
It didn't say
regional,
that.
it's the art controller.
Right.
All right, so what's the,
The dude said $40.
Whatever.
This is what I'm trying to tell you.
It's
where-
just current regional amounts.
current regional amounts, but where is it written? Does he make it up every year?
It doesn't, Jesus.
Okay, so again, so
Jesus
he
wept.
does not
But it,
I
he
communicate that
just said
information
it.
to us.
What do you
That's
mean?
one.
He communicated to me?
It also
Did he
says-
communicate it to you?
It also says,
So wait, did he communicate it to you?
he didn't communicate it to me.
Some,
So I'm the one who has to sign that voucher. If,
So-
let him sign the voucher, then I'd be out of the process. But I'm not putting my name to something that does not have itemized document, the itemized.
you did it in 2024.
I did not
You
sign.
did it in 2024 in your own forms, and then you forced the staff member to try to change your own damn forms. So don't hand me
So
this.
your voucher in 2024, I did the same thing?
I don't know what you did for my voucher, I know what you did for yours.
What, I didn't submit a voucher.
No, whatever nonsense you did, you weren't where you were supposed to be.
I was at the meeting.
You weren't at the meeting you're supposed to be, let's put it that way.
I was at the entire conference.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, you were where? In 2024, what conference were you at? Say that again out loud.
Association of Towns.
And you were there the whole time?
I-
You were there the
I-
whole time?
I called you to let you know I wasn't gonna be
You were there
there
the
for
whole
the,
time?
for the last days.
That's
of
not
the
what I
meeting.
asked you. I didn't ask you if you called me. I asked you if you were there the whole time. Come on.
For every single session?
Yeah.
I missed a couple sessions.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Alright, so again, what does that have to do with reimbursement vouchers?
Because what you signed last year in 2024 wasn't accurate. And I'm telling you, like here, I'm saying to you, here, Amtrak doesn't keep record. Here's my itinerary travel. And by the way, Amtrak was cheaper to go, and I said, here's the receipts, I got a refund. Like, I'm showing you all this stuff.
Again, but where's the itemized receipts for Amtrak?
It,
This is
again,
what,
oh
a
my God.
$13 thing that,
My
I don't know what
point-
it was, but you didn't submit necessary documentation. You need itemized documentation, supporting
It
documentation.
doesn't exist by the time we got the answers, Michael.
Why-
This is what I'm trying to tell you.
But this policy existed years before you went to this meeting, why would you keep the information then and there? If you had the intention of submitting a claim for reimbursement, why wouldn't you save the information right then and there? Save all
Because
your
you're the
receipts.
first one to say you want it specifically itemized into the way you asked for it, by the receipt, and it doesn't exist, right, by the time you ask for it. So
You said
usually,
five days, it does exist in the first 5 days.
and we didn't get the answers until after, so I didn't know that. So I'm thinking it's gonna live on my phone forever. Why would I print something that I think is gonna live on my phone? Because most digital receipts stay. Why would I print it? Like, or why would I do anything with it? That didn't make any sense. So when I found out, I didn't know till after, oh my God, it's not there. But here is the list. Here's the train schedule, like this is the best I can do.
So if you can submit an advisory opinion to state controller where they're comfortable with what was submitted, I will sign the voucher and pay you the difference. Because ultimately, whatever I sign has to pass their scrutiny. Right? So I'm not putting my signature to something that I'm gonna be responsible for. Right? We gave you the mileage, we gave you the meals, we gave you the hotel, we gave you the registration fees, you know, but the only thing I could not substantiate was specifics to which trains you took on which date.
Even though the date is on here, right? Like, I literally am showing you the date for my travel itinerary.
It does not provide enough detailed information. It doesn't show you where you're coming from, where you're going to, and it's like 3 different transactions on the same date. So I assume maybe that's a transfers train where you have to get multiple tickets for each transfer. I don't know. All I see is 3 transactions on one date, 3 transactions on another date. What does it mean?
It means I was going to the city, then got cheaper rates and refunded to get the cheaper rate, which is what I showed you on the original receipt. Because I'm not trying to take money from them.
But if you have an original receipt, why don't you submit the original
Because
receipt?
it went away. This is my, just,
Right, but you say you showed me the original receipt, you didn't have an original receipt.
on the original
Receipt showed-
transactions that I had, that I showed you, because at that point, the receipts were gone. And this is what I was able to produce. And I'm like, look, I got a refund here, just so you know. I got a refund here, so that's why you're seeing this. So I would like to come up with a very specific policy, and I don't know if that's a resolution at this point, where we are very clear, and then the board can override, because this dude is something else.
I think the board would be in favor of that. Any resolution that establishes standards, I think we'd all be in favor for. I think the
Would we?
idea is,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that is the, you know,
Out of
the fact that it's up in
curiosity,
here.
what is the discrepancy, like, what is
Yeah.
the dollar amount of
$200
what you feel is
Yeah,
200 between the entire, what you submitted,
Yeah.
or the difference between?
that's the difference between what I got paid or
And what you
reimbursed
submitted.
and what I submitted. It's only $200.
No,
But it's the point, it's
From
not,
listening, I thought it was far less, that's a substantial amount on me.
you know.
Yeah, that's
I thought it was like $15 actually.
Yeah, but you wanna know something?
I'm not,
Because This is the first year that I even put paperwork in, because I did not know
She didn't know
that.
until I told her it's 2
I had
years.
no idea. For 2 years, I put in the mileage on my car, the meals, tolls, everything on me.
Did you get
This year-
Did you get reimbursed?
Well, she never got
No.
reimbursed.
But this year,
I got partial reimbursement.
and you argued with me about the mileage.
Yeah, because
For half. You
all
argued.
I asked for something very, very, very easy. When you're putting in mileage and you're claiming X amount of mileage, the supporting documentation that's considered reasonable that everyone uses is a MapQuest printout of your starting location and your location. Whatever the mileage says.
And then you
And you
question
wanna
the
know
route that we
something?
took.
With
You
that,
question the route that we took.
But she didn't submit
You know,
any
the point
address.
is,
She didn't-
with that,
She didn't give me any
if
start and end
there's
point.
traffic,
She gave me a P.O. box.
excuse me?
Well,
If there is a problem with CarQuest, it will reroute you. If there's a closed lane, if there's too much traffic in a highway, look it up. What the hell was I supposed to do? I never submitted anything before. This was the first time. Maybe if you would have said, hey, Miranda, I know you're going. Sean, I know you're going. You need to have this, this, and this. I had no idea. It's not funny.
It's
It's not
the
funny.
idea is that it's been allowed to happen for so many years. It,
Excuse
has no
me,
bearing
I
on whether
had
or not
no
I
idea.
signed-
That's
I
not
signed-
Thing, because you did the same thing to me when I was going to a town clerk's meeting. And you didn't tell me.
I'm not wrong.
But it
And I
was,
will say,
I'm applying state controllers.
No, you're not.
But
No,
you
you're
know
not.
what?
You're arbitrating capricious in the execution of power of the supervisor. That's what you are. Hang on a second.
No, absolutely
No,
not.
no.
No,
Yes, you
no,
are.
no,
No, because you've been silencing
We
people
have
for the
some order
longest
here.
time.
No,
You've
I
been
have not.
silencing people for the
No.
longest time, and you continue to do it. You
I'm gonna let
continue
you
to
talk.
do it,
Go ahead.
right? Because you know what? You sit there, and so you did it to Paula, you did it to her, you did it to me. So there's a question
You were
right
all
now.
wrong.
Oh, so now,
You're all
but at
wrong.
one
nobody
point,
told us that we
you
had to
never
have a map
communicated.
quest. How did
You never
Just
communicated.
because you've
Do
been
you
doing
not
it wrong for
understand
years,
that?
just because you're doing it wrong for years doesn't mean I need to perpetuate it.
So-
No, but you're not listening. You don't communicate. Do you not get that? You don't. That's the problem.
If you have a question, you can reach out to me.
I think everybody needs to take it down.
If you have a question, you can just reach out to me.
I did, Michael. And you know what?
And you're only giving me
This was the
bits and
best.
pieces. You're only giving me bits and
I'm
pieces.
only giving you bits and pieces.
All right, can I give you some boring numbers?
Yes, please.
Yes.
All right, so while we were having a discussion, I was able to find the Office of Employee Relations, OER, New York State Labor Management Committee, travel and lodging reimbursement policy for consultants, updated 10/2024.
Consultant?
That's what I found. So, it's municipal. So, for the counties, New York State counties, including Sullivan County, there's multiple methods. There's an unreceipted method for lodging and meals called Method 1, which lodging and meals $35 a day. Method 2 with receipted lodging, $110. Method 2 with lodger receipted meat and meals. That's confusing, $68. And then the maximum per diem is $178 per day. And then there's a meal allowance breakdown of the $68 for overnight travel. Breakfast is a maximum of $14, dinner a maximum of $54. So there is a regional table, you just have to check what table the controller is using.
Yeah. Another thing, Mike, last year, you took the town car. Did you, by any chance, say, Miranda Behan, would you like to travel with me so you don't have to use your car? Nope. Did you ask Sean Walcarty, Sean Walcarty, would you like to travel with me? I have the company car. Nope. But I know that company car went to Brooklyn.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you, Miranda.
you're welcome.
All right, so we're to develop policies and procedures. for travel and lodging? Is that the thing we should be doing as a town? Or should we go off of?
Certainly, if we're
the
this
state?
confused,
They have to be updated all the time.
yeah, the tables, we have to look into it.
And I don't think it's a heavy lift, because it's understanding what the meal, daily per meal is per day, per
It could
day.
be a per diem, it could be a per meal, county does per meal, it's like
And it probably-
10, 15, maybe
Mhm.
25.
Like, I'm fine
But
with that, as long as there's a standard.
Richard,
Yeah,
if
as long as
somebody,
it's not-
if our supervisor would have told us, the three of us, we would have been totally prepared. But you know what? Nobody had the courtesy to tell us. And we went last year, and I didn't submit one piece of paper. Everything should have been said to us, but you didn't.
We're all adults, we know how to follow state standards, right?
Some of us.
Excuse me,
Right.
I don't work for the state, maybe you do.
All right, any other business before the board? Do I have a motion
I have,
to?
well, we're doing it private, I guess, the board members, but, yeah, you can close it. Close
So
it.
you wanna go to executive session? or
Without, no, turn it to the board, yes, some stuff to discuss.
Is it business wise? Cause I don't know if
No.
it's not, okay, so then,
So we're
do I have a
not-
motion to adjourn then?
Yes,
Motion.
motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. We'll see you on the 17th.
Sticking in my mouth.
Church, man, like, I'm really tired of it.
I have no idea. Jeff.